every single day. We have a choice of which horse we're going to ride, and we cannot ride two horses. And you cannot see the label from inside the jar. You need to make a choice, and you need to make a choice of how you're going to show up. Does it mean that your days are going to be filled with ease and grace and there's nothing and challenges you aren't going to face? Absolutely not. But does it mean that in spite of your circumstances that you could still wake up with a sense of peace and joy and a foundation and a grounding and connectiveness? Absolutely. Because when we're surviving, right, when we're in our survival brain is something that is there to keep us alive. So let me give you an example. Let's say a lioness is chasing a zebra. In that moment, the zebra is going to go into survival mode, and it's going to be thinking of three things. It's going to be thinking of, number one, my body. So how fast can I run? It's going to be thinking of its environment of, okay, so where can I go? And where, how am I going to make it through? And number three, it's going to think, do I fight? Or do I fly, right? Is there a place for me to hide right here? Or do I need to fly? Do I need to run? And 15 minutes later, if that zebra escaped the jaws of the lioness, 15 minutes later, that zebra is going to go back to grazing, and it's going to go back to just operating, and it's not going to have the stress. The issues that we face in today's world is that we are like the zebra, except we never unplug from survival. And every single living organism in this world is created to endure short-term survival. We are not created to endure long-term survival, brain survival. And that's where our bodies begin to break down. That's where, like, perhaps, someone says to you, gosh, she's in a mood. Why are you in a mood? And I ask you, hey, why are you in a mood? And you could say to me, well, 5 days ago, this happened to me. And I'm so glad you asked, right? And then you could begin to talk about it. And then let's say a few weeks go by or a few months go by, right? And then someone asks, gosh, she's always angry all the time. Why are you always angry? And I ask, why are you always angry? Well, because this happened to me 9 months ago, right? Now that has become your temperament. So an event that has now turned your mood, which is now turned into your temperament. Now, if that keeps going years and years and years, now you could be 15 years in the mix and someone could say, man, she's really like this, she's just not a happy person. And I ask, why are you so unhappy? Well, because this event happened to me 15 years ago, and now that becomes a personality. That's what survival does. When we operate in survival, it becomes so elusive, we don't even realize it's happening, that a mood becomes a temperament. And then the temperament becomes the personality. And that's where you come in, because you are no longer thinking in survival mode. You are now thinking in creation mode. And the question that I have for you is, does your environment control your thinking? Or does your thinking control your environment? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we really change our state of reality. So let's think about our old state of being. The same thoughts will lead to the same choices, which leads to the same actions and behaviors, which will lead to the same experiences, which will lead to the same feelings, which will then lead to the same thoughts, the same choices, same actions, same experiences, same feelings, which will lead again to the same thoughts, same choice, right? It goes back in the circle. That's called evolution. But you're stuck in that pocket of same thoughts, same choices, same actions, same experiences, same feelings. As a Divorcing Gracefully Sister and Beyond, as a boot camp graduate, you are now breaking the chain of that trajectory. You no longer are thinking the same thoughts, because let's see if you agree with me. Wouldn't you agree that when you have the same thoughts, it's going to lead to those same choices, which will then lead to those same actions, which will then lead to same experiences and same feelings? So even though you want something different, if you're in that loop, nothing is changing. It's the definition of insanity, right? I think we could all agree on that. But now let's go to our new state of being. Let's go into operating how you are now as a divorcing gracefully and beyond sister. Is that you are entering a state of new thoughts through the modules that we've went through the conversations that we've had, through the trainings that we had, through the discussions that we've had, through the self-work, right? That self-work that you've been doing and contemplating and learning about yourself. You are now eliciting new thoughts. You are creating new neural pathways in your brain that are creating new thought patterns. And those new thought patterns are going to offer you new choices, which will give you new actions and behaviors, new experiences, and new feelings. And that's where we fall into the new state of being, because 95% of how we operate every single day is unconscious. Only 5% of how we operate is conscious. That's why it's so important that in order to create a new personal reality, we really do need to become a new person with new thoughts, right? That makes sense. So when you're in the snap back period where you've stepped out and you've gotten new thoughts and you've gotten new choices and new actions and new experiences and new feelings, and you're moving towards that new state of being and you're feeling great and you're in the flow, and then all of a sudden something happens. An experience happens, a challenge comes in your way, a decision, and something happens, something comes across your path, and you go into the snap back. Because what happens when we go into survival? We go back to the same thoughts, same choices, same actions, same experiences, same feelings. This is your opportunity to tell your brain you're not in survival, that you are in creation, that in spite of the circumstances in front of you, you are making new choices and new thoughts and new actions, which will lead to new experiences and new feelings. And it's understanding that your personality is going to create your new personality, right? Your personality creates your personal reality. So how you think and how you act and how you feel is going to bridge the old self into the new self. Right? And going back to, if we're thinking the same things, then we're going to be creating our old self. When we step into thinking new things and stepping into that new state of being, focusing on our future self. Remember how I recommend focusing 90% of our time, focusing on our future self versus our old self. When we step into that new state of being, we have now created a new personal reality. And everything that you've learned here over the course of us working together, you can't unlearn. And that's the part that I just love, is that you can never be the same woman that you are tomorrow that you were yesterday, because you cannot unlearn what you've learned here. And it's understanding that you control your destiny. There's no, like fate. I mean, I do believe in a sense of fate, in the sense there's multiple different doors and there's different avenues that we could take, and that there is a higher source and source energy and an infinite field of energy that we're attached to. I say God, right? But people could say source or infinite energy, and that there are pathways that we're predestined or pre-designed to come here to experience. But you get to co-create. You get to control and influence your destiny. You are not a victim of cause. You are a master of cause, right? You're not a victim of effect. You are a master of cause. You get to control where you're going. You get to decide, how are you going to show up today? You get to decide, am I going to be a victim to what's going on around me? Am I going to let the struggles of the day, now I'm not minimizing the struggles and I'm not minimizing the pains that come across your path, because in the moment they're painful and they hurt and they could actually have you paralyzed and going right back to where you were. And that's where you come in and you talk to yourself and you say, okay, I'm feeling as if I'm sliding back, and it may even bring you back to a time when you were a little girl experiencing these feelings. And that's where you come in and you allow yourself to acknowledge it, and then you step back in and you take control over, and you move out of the animal brain, right, which is the reptilian brain, and you move into the divine God brain. Because at any given time, we are operating, and we have two states of mind and body. We have the survival mode and we have creation mode. Okay. So we know when we're operating in survival, when we're in stress or contraction or dis-ease, or we feel imbalanced, where we're just hyper focused on what we have or what we don't have. We're hyper focused on the way we look. We're hyper focused on what we're eating. We're hyper focused on control. And if something goes a different way or doesn't go as planned, it could freak you out, right? Where you're object focused, where you're in that emergency, like everything has to be done. It has to be done now, has to be done fast. Where you feel separate, you feel lonely. You feel there's limited possibilities. You feel like everything's against you. You feel like you're at the mercy of this thing called life, and that there's no choice for you, that you're incoherent. That sounds familiar. I think everybody could agree with me that we've been in that state of mind probably more than we would have liked to be. And let's go over into the other state of mind, which is the creation, which is divine, which is the God state of mind body. That's when we step into expansion. That's when we step into homeostasis, where everything is just working. Not because we're forcing it to, not because we're wanting it to, it just is. We're in flow. There's health, there's order, there's repair and regeneration. We're entering into a state of love, of joy, of trust, of just knowing, that inner knowing that all is well. Doesn't mean that everything in our environment is working the way we want. It's just this inner knowing that in spite of our environment, we just have this knowing, and that we are entering into, we are a creator, that we are no thing, we are nobody, and we're in no time. We could remove ourselves from the hubbub of the day and this 3D dimensional reality we're in. We understand that we are connected, that we are not a lonely being here on this planet called Earth, that we are connected not only in our divine sisterhood, but we're connected to the infinite source of energy, and that there's all possibilities, and that we are in complete mind, body, heart coherence, that your soul fracture is healed or being healed. And that's one thing to think about during this course of your journey, is going back and looking at, what do I need to do in order to keep moving in this direction? What are the things that elicit my heart, that make my heart leap? What are the things that I could step into that I know that I lose time doing those things, right? Because you want to be that person first. It's one thing to say, I want to be happy. And it's another thing to say, I am happy. Because when you are happy, you will do the things that happy people do, and you will think the things that happy people think. Be, do, have. And if you're saying, I want to be something, then you're stating to the universe that there's lack, that there's a bridge. So when you state, I am, even though you may not feel you're fully there, you begin to enter that state of being where you're already there. So you be, do, have. Where we're at right now, and this is something that I want each and every one of you to really think about, because this is the personal path for every single one in the program. And that is the evolution of yourself. You are here, perfect timing. You are not early, you are not late. The information that is at your fingertips and the information that we've been discussing has been divinely guided information for you. And what we know, and just to repeat the formula, focused intention plus elevated emotion is going to equal manifestation. So this is the evolving of your being, is thinking, where is the wisdom that I could gain? Because memories without emotion is called wisdom. Where is the wisdom that I could gain? Where in my soul is my soul leading me, and my soul's purpose and journey? And remember, soul's purpose is never static. It's always dynamic. Where have I been operating in memorized self habits, and just programmed thoughts? And where is there an opportunity for me to step out and learn and become the philosopher? To step out and look, and instead of operating in a day-to-day program where I could step outside of the program and put focused intention with elevated emotion and begin to think of my future self and begin to think in creation, right? We want to go from thinking, doing, being. We want to go from knowledge to experience to wisdom, because in today's day and age, it's not only important to know, but you need to know how. You need to know how to take these steps. And that's what this program is teaching you step by step. So moving from knowledge to experience to wisdom. We want to move from mind to body to soul. We want to move from the body taking over the mind, just making decisions for us that we have absolutely no input in because we're operating in survival. We're just kind of reacting to our environment. And our mind is just thinking. We're in beta brainwave state. We're not attached to the divine. We're running by program. And if you look around at the people in your life and just sit on a bench, sit on a bench in a mall and just notice the chaos in people, you would be surprised, because you are going to be able to notice that now. You will notice the chaos and the hurriedness and the craziness and the indecisiveness and the not focused. And you are no longer part of that energy. You're now part of a higher level intelligence and energy, which is giving you focus, which is giving you intent and giving you clarity, right? We are going to move from intention that will then affect and change our behavior, which will then affect and change our destiny that we get to co-create. We get to learn, how do I send out that signal and draw the event back to me, and which in end will create a manifestation. We want to move from our head to our hands to our heart. Again, philosopher, initiate, master. And that's asking, where are you on your scale of philosopher to initiate to master? A master is one that needs nothing from no one, in a sense. It's not to say that you don't enjoy love and you don't enjoy deep intimacy and that you don't enjoy a wonderful relationship, but you're not looking outside of yourself. That you're completely content, that you have everything that you need, and not just everything, but abundance of what you need. And most people think, well, I need more money, I need a bigger house, I need more things, because we're stuck in that survival mode. But when we move on to master, we're not looking at more money, we're not looking at more things, we're actually looking at less things. We're looking at having enough money and more than enough to survive, but then more to give away. So asking yourself, where am I on my scale of evolution? In the past 12 weeks, when I came into the program, where was I? In the mid-program, where was I? At the end of my program, where am I? And where do I want to continue going? Because that's going to be one of the important things for you to do, is to self-scale and see where you are. And Aristotle has a perfect quote, and he says, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an action, but a habit. So wouldn't you agree with me that if we have habits that we have pre-programmed our mind to, that don't serve us, wouldn't you agree with me that we can now have new habits if we reprogram our brain that do serve us? And what we know now by science is our thoughts literally could make us sick, right? When we go into the brain and we see that toxic emotions and toxic energy, staying in survival, being in fear, worry, or doubt, operating on that scale of consciousness, which we learned about at the very, very low level, it actually causes dis-ease in our body. And that's the scary part, because your thoughts literally can make you sick. On the other hand, the amazing part is that if the toxic thoughts make us sick, can it be, if we change our thoughts, it can make us well? Right? If we take thoughts and actions and we put them into focused intention, elevated state of emotion, and they're positive thoughts and actions, that can make us well. And that's where you ask yourself, where am I operating? And I want you to look at yourself, not in condemnation, not in judgment, just an honest philosopher viewpoint, just looking, where do I operate on most of my day? Am I operating in thoughts that serve me or don't serve me? And if you find yourself on the scale where you're operating in thoughts that don't serve you, then ask yourself, what can I do to change that? And now we have a system and a process, right? We have the gratitude journal. We have the 50 reasons why I'm amazing. We have our soundtrack of awesome. We have things that could snap you right back into consciousness and knowledge. You now have knowledge that you didn't have before. And you have the knowledge of how to use it. There's a scale, and I don't know who the person, and I'll put it in the Facebook group, who founded this idea, but he says we move through different stages of unconscious to conscious. And he basically says that you started unconsciously unskilled, you move on to consciously unskilled, then you move on to consciously skilled, and then you move on to unconsciously skilled. And ultimately that's where we want to be. So basically what this whole process is saying is that, when we begin our process and our life as a human being, and even to a young adulthood, and maybe even to some adults, is that basically are left to the environment, right? Unconsciously unskilled. You're on habit, that, after 35, we're programmed, right? We're on the program, we're running 95% subconscious, and those subconscious thoughts are just not necessarily helping us, right? Because they're just meant to keep us alive. Doesn't know if those thoughts are helping us or hurting us. So basically we're just sort of at the the wind, whatever way the wind's blowing is where we're going. And then we move up to having some awareness about it, or some conscious, and saying, wow, these thoughts aren't really, gosh, this is not really maybe so good for me. If we begin to think about it, but we don't really know how to change it, right? So we're consciously unskilled. Now we begin to understand it, and we begin to understand how we change it. So we become consciously skilled, until we do it enough, because how we build an unconscious habit or an unconscious program is through habit. So every day you're saying your gratitude journal. Every day you're in an elevated state of being. Every day you're quieting your mind and you're doing things you enjoy. Every day you're looking at something that's moving towards your future self. Every day you do it, you're building a habit. So the way that you change your subconscious mind is through understanding what it is we want to focus on, that intention, and then habitually doing it and saying it every single day, right? So you're not going to want to say, I just want to be happy, I just want to be happy, versus if you want to build an unconscious skilled habit, you're going to say, I am happy, I am happy, I am happy. But not because you're just saying it just to, shoot the shit and you don't believe it, but you're actually doing the things that that build happiness and that elicit that emotional event, that you're doing things like going outside, you're enjoying time with your family, you're traveling, or you're focusing on something, you're cooking, you're decorating your home, you're spending time outside, you're doing things that you enjoy. So you are unconsciously, building those repetitive habits, which will build to that subconscious behavior. And it's understanding that every single time you do it, you are rewiring. And our brain's ability to change its synaptic wiring is by learning information and by recording experiences, right? And the more that we do it, the more we're going to restructure our brain. We need new experiences. We need to learn new things. And that's one of the reasons why I think the importance of just the work that you're doing here is allowing your brain to bring in new things. But this is also an opportunity for you to encourage yourself to step out of the box. If you go to work the same way every day, then do something different. Go a different way. If you eat the same cereal every single day at the same time, maybe change it up a little bit. Have something different for breakfast one day. Right? We want to move from what's called neurorigidity, which is thinking inside the box. So living life from past experiences without learning new things and having new experiences. We're actually keeping the brain firing the same pattern. We're actually lulling the brain to sleep. It becomes just placid. We want to go into neuroplasticity, which is thinking outside the box, where we learn new things, create new experiences, make new memories. So ask yourself, and this is one of the things to think about today, is not only in your evolution of self and where you came into the program, where you were in the middle, and where you are now and where you want to be, but also asking yourself, how can I incorporate new things? Because this is going to be really important for you, is not to do the same things and not to do it at the same time in the same way, with the same clothes, with the same thinking, is actually to step outside of the box and do something different. And I have a perfect example of that, because every morning, well, not every morning, but there are certain mornings where I take Casey out for her walk, and most mornings I do, and I go to kind of the same beach, because that's the dog beach where they're allowed, and it's kind of like the same thing. And I know, knowing what I know, I do try to take a different way, or I'll try to, go at a different time, or I'll just try to mix it up a little bit. But today, when I went down there, the gate to get into the park, the dog park, was closed. And I'm thinking, my goodness, like, this is not going to be good, because I have to come back here. I have to do things. I don't have time to go to a different place. So I just, instead of packing it up and getting upset and, being disappointed, I said, you know what, I'm going to explore today. I'm going to do something different. I put on her collar, and we ended up walking around Port Jefferson Village in some of the homes that I've never seen before. We went up a block. I've never been up that block, never seen those homes. I got to see the Port Jefferson Harbor in a completely different viewpoint, because we were up so high. And it was really interesting. I got to meet different people along the way, because people were out shoveling their driveways. And it ended up being a really wonderful experience. And I thought to myself, wow, this is amazing, because what I normally do the same, this is different. But I forced myself to do it, because what I wanted to do was get in the car, go back home, and just be done with it. But I forced myself. It wasn't easy. I'm telling you, it just wasn't easy. But I knew what I needed to do. And I was like, Donna, just do it. This is something different. Step out of the box. Just try it. And sure enough, I did. So that's a perfect example. So what I would encourage each and every one of you to do is check on that evolution of self. Understand that you are the creator of your destiny, that you get to co-create, and understand, what am I doing the same? Am I focusing more on the doing? Am I focusing more on the busyness, or am I being productive, right? There's a difference between being busy and being productive, because you could sit on your swing all day long on the porch, but you're not going anywhere if you're just going to swing, right? So you could be focused on doing the gratitude and doing the forgiveness and doing all of the intention work, which by all intents is great, is a great Girl Scout effort. However, we don't want to just be so focused in the doing and having to do it a certain way at a certain time and squeezing it in. We want to be more focused on the being part, being gratitude, being forgiveness, getting out of that survival, getting out of that focus, and getting into the experience, and getting into trying new experiences. So I hope today's training gave you somewhat of a different viewpoint of the work that we've been doing, and a little bit of a refresher. And take this opportunity for yourself to see where you are, where you want to be, because the next few weeks are going to be some amazing weeks. We're coming into the new year, and this is always a wonderful time to reevaluate where you've been, where you're going. So I hope that this training came in perfect timing, and I wish each and every one of you an amazing rest of the day, and I'll see you guys on the other side. See you later. Bye.